Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is May 8th, 2025. That's more than 5 years of Torah every single weekday morning. But more importantly, just greeting each other and saying good morning. It's good to see all of you. It's been beautiful to gather from all corners of the world to find each other, to support each other, to learn together, and to grow, especially in relationship. Susie and Grace, Penny, it's good to see you. Thanks, Penny. It is broadcast 1299. Adele and Janice, good to see all of you. Michelle, Linda, Tara, Patricia, and Jack, Boker Tov. I hope that all of you are doing well. It is broadcast 1299 as Penny shared, and it is also day 580 since October 7th. Peter, Rose, Helen, Dale, Barry, and Cecile, good to see you. Catherine, sending love. Hi, Lydia. Hi, Diane. All right, let's take a breath. We're going to sing a bracha, learn some Torah, share a beautiful and powerful day. Natalie and Ellen, good to see you too. Hi, Carl. Sunday, hope that you are well. Rosa and Linda, Ron, good morning. Good morning, friends. Adele, Mazel Tov to you. Your daughter Deborah is getting a master's in public health tomorrow. That is a gorgeous celebration. Mazel Tov to you. And Corinne, thank you for reminding all of us. Today is the 80-year anniversary of the official end of World War II. There's a lot of history to reflect upon, and the connection and obligation of the world led for so long by the United States' commitment to a global, stable network of nations is under attack right now. And so for us to stand today and to remember what it is to take a place of pride and leadership in the world based on ethics and morals and peace is something worth reflecting on and reinforcing in the way that we conduct ourselves as citizens. Also, I wanted to deal today with a topic that is so important and for some of us so complicated. In Achrei Mot Kedoshim, because it's a double portion, we have two verses that have been used to dehumanize people in the name of text by every faith community that sees the Torah as part of its tradition. In Leviticus 18 and Leviticus 20, there are two verses that speak not about LGBTQ people. That's not what the verses talk about. They talk about one act between two men. But the way that the verse has been used throughout time has been ultimately to dehumanize in the name of God. I remember a long time ago when I was a new rabbi in Sharon, Massachusetts. At that time, the state of Massachusetts was debating equal marriage. This is before the Supreme Court ruling that made equal marriage legal in the United States. And I decided I wanted to be part of this. I wanted to be part of the energy fighting for equality in the civil sphere and also in the Jewish sphere. So I didn't know what an activist was really, but I clearly became one. But I didn't want to do so as a rabbi. And I went to City Hall as part of rallies to support equal marriage, but I didn't do so as a rabbi. I did so as a citizen of Massachusetts. And I saw biblical verses being used by the opponents of equal marriage. And I realized at that moment that if I didn't wield the faith voice that I have earned and am called to lift up, the only use of faith would be in the other direction. And yes, historically, the understanding of these verses is relatively, to use a pun, straightforward. But it is also important to see what they say, what they don't, and even to respond to the limited understanding of what they say. Meaning, there is no talk of loving monogamous relationships between two men or two women in the Torah. Such a thing was unimaginable at the time. It's not to say that there wasn't love, that there weren't gay people and lesbian people. Of course there were. But the Torah has no notion of such a thing as a covenantal relationship between two men, sanctified by tradition. That only has been a more modern understanding as traditions and society have continued to grow in understanding of humanity and of love, and I would say also in terms of the image of God. Now, I didn't think about it in such a nuanced way when I was first ordained. That was 2002, and I remember right around the same time as this rally in Boston, I was asked to sign an ad that was going to be placed in the Jewish paper, and the big headline said, "Massachusetts rabbis support marriage equality." Someone called and said, "Would you sign?" And I said, "Of course I'll sign." I didn't even think about it. I was an assistant rabbi. I didn't talk to my senior rabbi. I didn't talk to any leadership of the shul. I just said, "Well, this is what I believe. Of course I will." And some of the shul that I served was very happy with me, and some of the shul was not very happy with me. In fact, the president of the shul came up to me and said, "I didn't know we hired an activist." And I looked at him, and I truly meant this when I said it. What's an activist? Because I had learned from all of my Jewish upbringing that the image of God was a universal human truth, and that I can't understand another person's reality. All of that is part of the unfolding of Torah, and how I faced two biblical verses was both to narrow the read, to contextualize the read, and to know that it isn't for me to judge someone else's life. I know enough. I had learned with leaders like Idit Klein, one of my most treasured friends today, who founded Keshet, the largest nationwide network for Jewish LGBTQ people and their families and allies, and the power of Idit's vision and Keshet's work influenced my life as a rabbi in the way that every moment of Jewish history has been touched by learning and growing. When we are blessed, we learn from the world around us. And all of that, of course, at least from a faith perspective, is a manifestation of some kind of godliness. We often discover things that we didn't know, and that is part of the gift of having a permeable tradition. Judaism has never been about dogma. And when it comes to notions of the world to come, or human sexuality, or the place of women, or what it is to conduct war ethically, and to become a tribe that includes many different kinds of people, the Torah itself grows. Let me use an example, not specifically from these verses, but from these two parshas. I owe this insight to Professor Benjamin Summer at JTS, whose comment on these parshiot just took my breath away. He points to verses in this week's double Torah portion that talk about nevela and trefa. So they're technical terms, and they describe animals that have been killed by other animals or have died. And among the things that we discover when we really look at the verses is that they disagree fundamentally with other parts of the Torah. How so? In this double parsha, we hear that nevela and trefa, if you come across these animals that have not been slaughtered ritually, if you eat them, you are tameh, you are in a state of impurity, for lack of a better translation, temporarily, and after a time you come back into community. So Professor Summer points out very frequently Israelites came in and out of this role of impurity, and that showed that some things that maybe you shouldn't do, you do when you're in community and you're back in after some time and a ritual. But elsewhere in the Torah, specifically in the book of Deuteronomy, Dvarim, you are absolutely not allowed to do this. And so it is crucial for us to understand what Professor Summer points out eloquently in his piece, that sometimes we see disagreement within law, and we don't have to throw any part of it away to know that it isn't the answer right now. Well, there are two verses in this week's double portion that we can look at and wonder about out loud, and not rip them out of the Torah, but also not apply them. Because the Torah's understanding of monogamous love between two men or two women, its understanding of the complicated nature of sexual identity, the Torah understands so much. And as students of Torah, we are called to continue that trajectory, deepening our understanding, deepening our inclusivity, demanding ethical conduct on the part of our community and leadership, and absolutely demanding at core the dignity of every human being created in God's image, no matter what they look like, no matter what their body does or can't do, and no matter whom they love. Because there is more love in the world in this way. And after all, as I learned from Ron Segev, a survivor of the Nova massacre, I just learned it this past Sunday. I'd heard it before, but now it is his teaching to me that I channel forward. Ahava, love, the Hebrew word for love, the gematria of that, the number value of love is God. How do I get there? Because it's 13. And echad, the word for one, Adonai echad, God is echad. Echad, the word echad, numerically understood through gematria, is also 13. How much more God there is in the world when we acknowledge and respect each other's love. And in a world that we inhabit right now that seems to be going backward on human dignity, especially when it comes to the ones we love, we have to do everything we can to appreciate Torah and Jewish tradition's ability to grow and to learn, all in the name of a gentle and loving God, to appreciate the diversity of humankind, and to know that humankind must be human and kind. Who we love is holy, and tradition has the capacity to share it. I'm going to close with a quote from Professor Summer. He said, "Today, communities of religious Jews have modified the laws of sexual practice anchored in this week's Parsha, but that does not mean that we pretend the verses that reflect the older practices are not there, any more than we skip reference to the kosher trefa that also appears in the Parsha. Torah is more complicated than one perspective. The texts we study and chant as religious Jews contain a wide variety of opinions and laws, some of them still current, some of them no longer in use. As we chant the verses no longer in effect, we can reflect on the way that Judaism continues to evolve even today, and how we are responsible to participate in the perpetuation of Judaism that this evolution allows. Sometimes," he says, "this involves modifying particular elements of the Torah while continuing to observe the rest of the laws that emerge from Torah. That this specific law here or that one there changes need not undermine our commitment to the system of Jewish law as a whole. Through putting ourselves in conversation with our past, we acquire the right to participate in the process of creating Judaism anew. Friends, I want to close with this very powerful story from my friend and my teacher, Rabbi Stephen Greenberg, who for a long time was the only openly gay Orthodox rabbi. He tells the story of when he was younger and began to understand himself. He was in severe pain because we read these verses Yom Kippur afternoon. And he felt hated by the Torah, felt hated in the eyes of God because the Torah was calling him something bad, truly. So he fought it. He fought it and he tried to live up to what he thought he was supposed to do, which was ultimately very unhealthy, negating, God forbid, his own identity. He then, as he got older, understood that who he was not understood by the Torah, so he stood in defiance. When that section of the Torah was read Yom Kippur afternoon, he would stand, weeping, but stand. And eventually, he made the decision that I know many LGBTQ Jews have. When that Torah portion is read, they receive that aliyah, they stand at the Torah, and the way Steve describes it, white knuckle grip of the Torah itself. We are called, friends, to love Torah and to know that Torah is one step on the trajectory of leading a truly faithful and loving life in the way that God intended. If you believe God wrote the Torah, then you should appreciate so deeply God's inner reflective process, because the Torah goes back and forth on some very big ideas. God grows too. And if you believe people wrote the Torah as an attempt to come close to the holy, what a gift it is, friends, to understand that we are part of that creative process. Either theology, either notion of the origin of the Torah, what a gift it is, friends, to know that we have a part of creating Judaism anew, recognizing the image of God, knowing that we are called to do so, just as our ancestors were. We are on a trajectory of holiness. And so here we are, friends, and Rabbi Greenberg's pioneering spirit and Edith Klein's amazing vision and leadership through the creation of Keshet have created national networks that have influenced every part of the Jewish world, including more and more Orthodox rabbis opening up community to the conversation of LGBTQ inclusivity, where equal marriage is an assumption in our world and a commitment that we make to seeing, respecting, and loving the image of God. I encourage you to do a lot of research on this if you have questions. There is good stuff out there to find. Find Keshet online. Watch the pioneering film Trembling Before God that some of us are talking about. It began a process in a very public way that had been going on for a long time and changed the world. Well, it is our job to be students of those teachers and to continue changing the world, because after all, more God in the world in this loving way is a very good thing. Take a breath with me, friends. Send your hearts all the way to the east, because if more love in the world is a good thing, then our family, please God, becoming whole once again is also that very same good thing. Sing with me. Kolon balevav pnima nefesh Yehudi homiya ulefatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia od lo avda tikvateinu התקווה בת שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון v'Yerushalayim, liot am chofshi be'artzeinu, Eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim. On this 580th day of captivity, we demand, bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, friends.